What's up, beautiful people? I'm Brandon. My friends and family call me B-Cam, and I'd like to welcome you to your extended family, where we explore culture through adventure and conversation with local communities around the world. We believe the best in humanity is when we learn from and embrace the differences in each other. So let's explore together, meet new people, and have new experiences, with a goal to make us all a little more open-minded, inspired by the people in the world around us, and with an ever-growing extended family. What's up, beautiful people? I wanted to pop in real quick and introduce myself. My name is Brandon. I'm the founder of Extended Family, and this conversation is special because it represents the next phase of Extended Family. We're introducing our chief storyteller, Monika Guwalani. When I started Extended Family so many years ago, it was my first experience engaging with people and culture in the world around us. My hope was that by broadening my experience, that others would gain perspective and broaden theirs at the same time as well. My thought was, and still is, that by having interactions, cultural experiences, locally and abroad, with the people and the places in the world around us, inch by inch, we can eradicate the pervasive ignorance that exists in our society. This conversation is so integral to that mission because it's a manifestation of that original vision. We have Monika, someone that is different than I am, from a different background, from a different country, exploring the world and having her own experiences, her own conversations, challenging her own perceptions, her own lived experiences to broaden her horizons, and that people that resonate with her will have an opportunity to do the same. So we're introducing her because she'll be having some of these same conversations, and I'm excited for the people that will resonate with Monika's experience and join along to follow her journey. So without further ado, introducing the first chief storyteller for Extended Family, Monika Guwalani. Welcome to your extended family. All right, y'all, we're here. Oh my God. We're here in Goa. I'm here with Monika Guwalani, Extended Family's chief storyteller.
That's me.
We finally made it. Such a long and meandering journey, but super happy to be here, super happy to have you. We're on the beach in Goa. Sun is shining. It was cool, a little bit hot. Nice sound of the ocean breeze.
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew Goa existed until a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah. So, we're here, Monika. How do you feel?
I feel great. Thank you for having me, Brandon. It's been a while, actually, that we've been meaning to meet and have this conversation. And I'm glad that we're here now. I'm glad that you're in my country. And yeah, although it's a little familiar to me, but it's still nice because I haven't been to this part of my country.
Yeah.
So it's fairly new to me as well. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here and to shoot all the videos, all the content that's coming up. And it's been great so far. It's been a couple of days that we've been together, and it's been wonderful actually working with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, she's making me feel warm and fuzzy. You know, I really do appreciate that. As you, like, I don't even know if I can properly emphasize and articulate how grateful I am to be working with you. How grateful I am to have you here. You know, it's one thing I think what's also really great about our relationship is that you're also an entrepreneur. You were previously a corporate professional. And so in being an entrepreneur and making that transition, you understand some of the twists and turns that happen,
Yeah.
the bumps and bruises you experience.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just, so obviously Monika and I are here not only introducing her presence
Yeah.
as storyteller for the year and for you to get familiar with her, but for us to have an explorative conversation because although we've been working together and chatting for some while, we're still getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that that we need to get to know about each other. So normally when I have these conversations or conversations with, and conversations that you'll have with people all around the world talking about, you know, cultural issues in an explorative conversational way, sometimes contextualizing history against their modern existence, you know, all the nuances of local culture in that place. really, getting personal, getting intimate, and getting, what the travel industry would say more immersive. But to me, it's just being human,
Yeah.
about the people and places that we experience. But today, you and I get to do it in a way that we haven't gotten to do until now, and just being responsible and checking our camera. But so I'm really actually excited to have this conversation, and I think you've been excited to have
Yes.
this conversation.
I've been waiting to hold up my questions
Yes.
to you and just getting to know you better because, yeah, it's been a while that I've been meaning to ask a few questions, but yeah, I'm excited for this conversation as well. Thank
well,
you.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. First of all, Monika, like, I know that you're obviously Indian. You've lived in Singapore, but tell me a little bit more about like your background. I know you're from Rajasthan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I know you have, if I remember right, an older sister, and you also have a niece.
Yes.
So, what was life like for you growing up in Rajasthan? Like, and I tell you, I just a little more context. When people ask me like about that from Vegas, it's always weird because it's usually with the context of somebody asking me that's also from the States or somebody that's, you know what I mean? So I think my responses honestly are probably boring. But like for me, as someone who's from the States, this is my first time in India. Just found out what Rajasthan was yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, to me, first of all, it's like, it's amazing that we're here together. It's amazing that we're literally going to be on a journey together for nearly a year, So when I'm thinking about like being able to hear about where you're from and what that means to you, I'm very interested in it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I actually was born in a town in Rajasthan, and a lot of people know the town for its education. I come from a town from where maximum number of engineers and doctors in India actually come from, and they go there to study, which is a small town as Kota, and it's known for its coaching business. So if you know all the IITs and all the top medical schools in India, most of them have actually studied in my town. And there's a lot of student culture from where I come from. Although, to answer your question, I was born there definitely, but I was 2.5 years old when I actually moved to the Emirates. And that's where I was actually raised. Yeah, so I was raised in Abu Dhabi and in a very small society, locality where there were a couple of Indian families. We used to be super excited for all the Indian festivals that we used to celebrate. I in fact do believe that just as expats, we Indians celebrate way more festivals abroad than we do in India. And that's how life was like for me as well. So my parents were great travel enthusiasts. I have a very close bond with my family, an elder sister like you mentioned. And even though we weren't as close while growing up, but we're very close now. And it's wonderful actually to have them as the support system for everything I do. And I'm super grateful for just having them as just who they've been through entire 30 years of my life. And even though of all the silly mistakes and all the stupid, nerve-wracking things I've done through my life, they've just been extremely supportive. So just as I think as an Indian, we consider family really important.
Yes.
And our values are, we call it Sanskriti in Hindi.
Sanskriti.
Yeah, Sanskriti in Hindi, and
What does that mean?
values are very, very important to us. That's how I think through this journey also, for me it's very important to understand and always go back to where I come from, because I want to stay grounded that way. That's what my parents have taught me. But then I did shift back to India after good 13, 14 years. And because I had already, studied in the UAE, I was this really simple girl with simple dreams. I wasn't street smart.
Yes.
But India makes me street smart.
So wait, how old were you when you moved back to?
I think I should be like 16, 17.
Okay.
Maybe earlier, actually, 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when I moved back to India, back to Rajasthan, and there was this huge cultural shock for me, where all of a sudden I had to face. Other education systems, and my Hindi was not as good. People made fun of me when I was in school because I thought having ACs in the bathroom is a very normal thing to have, because that's how it was in the UAE, and people found it really funny. And I really could never speak in Hindi. I still don't know how to read in Hindi as much, but I can read Arabic stronger. So it was a huge cultural language shift that I had. And but then I would say this, I don't know, just as I started being in India for a longer period of time, I met the right kind of people. I made friends who are my best friends now, and they're the ones who actually have made me very street smart. So I wouldn't wait for things to come to me. I know my way to figure out things because maybe of that transition that I had, and I owe that period, this learning of my life there.
So let me back up a few stages. So, all right, you're born in Rajasthan. You moved to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, at 2 years old.
Yeah.
So, because you moved to the UAE, you learn how to read, write, and speak Arabic, but your family speaks Hindi, right? Because of in the state where you're from, that's the prominent language, right?
Yeah.
So, is it in that area? Is Hindi the dominant language, and then people also speak English, or which?
Yeah, so we have a couple of other languages actually in Rajasthan. The one that's actually my mother tongue is Sindhi.
Sindhi.
So I'm a Sindhi by caste. However, there are other castes in Rajasthan which speak Marwari, and I think it's Rajasthani and Marwari is the same thing, but I'm not too sure.
Yes.
But yeah, those are the other languages that are spoken in my state. And India has a lot of other languages. So like in Goa itself, we're speaking two languages, which is Konkani and Hindi. And I think we definitely have way more languages than any other country.
So I know all over the world, right? There's so many different languages and dialects. My opportunity to travel through Africa last year, I learned that even within countries, similar to India, many different languages, people from different regions and different places can't speak to each other. For instance, South Africa, I know that there's, 12 different languages, and in Nigeria, multiple different languages, and Kenya, you got, tribal languages, and what happens is as a result of colonialism, people develop a common tongue, and I believe similarly here with respect to English. So okay, going back a little bit with your UAE, right? You said that. So actually, one final thing is, although there's people in different regions of India that speak various language, would you say the most predominant language is Hindi?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you read, write, speak Arabic, and you said you come back, and while you speak Hindi, you don't maybe read it as well as you speak it. So in your development process, right, when you're in the UAE, are your parents encouraging you to speak Hindi, like in the home? Are you speaking Hindi? Or are you speaking Arabic, or are you speaking English? What is that like?
Yeah, I think I speak to my dad and my sister in English, and then the rest of the family in Hindi and Sindhi. Yeah, so that's how it would be, ideally.
So my other question is, tell me this: what was it like growing up in the UAE?
It was great.
Yeah,
Sorry,
because you said there was such a contrast, right?
Yeah.
That when you returned, it was a cultural shock. But I think what I'm interested in learning is what was that experience like, right? To give context to what the contrast is between the UAE, and you going, returning to Rajasthan.
Yeah, it was definitely a difficult year for me. I would say that. Again, just because of the language, the people, the way India functions. because UAE was a little more obviously tech savvy. This is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, this is 2006.
No, I'm saying. So tell me what was it like in the UAE though? I've never been.
Oh yeah.
So I actually don't know.
Yeah. So honestly, I think what we see today as UAE ads, which is the glamour of Dubai and then the Ferrari world of Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
That's not how I saw it.
Yeah.
It was way old. It was way more raw. There was still a lot of desert. There was still a lot of infrastructure that was getting built. Burj Khalifa was still not built, and there was no Dubai frame, or there was no circle. All of those things were not there, and it was still way more raw, a little less expensive.
Yeah.
And we still have the joys of having the Ibrahimi shawarma for 1 dirham, and just enjoying those things. So I think I've seen it in a very raw state, where Dubai was just coming up. And of course there was still a lot better infrastructure than what it is currently in India. But I think just as people, they were very warm. I made a lot of local friends who were Arabic, and then I also had classmates from all around the world. So that was really nice to actually study and grow up with these people.
Absolutely.
So that was wonderful. And also it was also a city which was pretty strict by the rules, right? I remember we used to when my dad got his driving license, which was after a long time. And it was so normal for us to go distribute sweets to our neighbors, saying please pick a chocolate, my dad got his driving license. It was such a thing.
I was like, was it a celebration?
Yeah, it was, because it was really difficult to actually get a driving license in the Emirates.
Really?
Yeah, and it's actually an international driving permit. So if you get a license there, you can actually drive anywhere in the world. And it's a pretty strict policy. At least back then it was. I don't know the rules now, but then it was definitely a huge celebration. And we used to go all the way, travel 240 kilometers to go get that license. So, and you had to do it all the time to go and get the test. So it wasn't a very easy thing to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's amazing though that it's so significant that there's a celebration around obtaining a license. It's interesting because a lot of the things that you're telling me about what your experience was living in what city was it in the UAE?
I was close to Abu Dhabi.
Near Abu Dhabi. So if you telling me how it was growing up near and around Abu Dhabi is similar to what people think about Las Vegas.
Oh,
my hometown. What I mean is, there's one perception of what it's like, and then there's the real lived experience. And so for you, like you said, people thinking Burj Khalifa, lavish, Ferraris, etc. Similarly, people asked me when I was growing up or when I went off to college, they would say, did you grow up in hotels? Just kind of things that are sensational. That people think. So it's interesting to know that we have that shared experience of something seeming sensational, but really it's
it's not. Yeah.
Our life wasn't like that.
Right. So actually, I was in Las Vegas for some time. I think a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And although I did see the glamour side of it and the Vegas Strip, I lived with an 85-year-old Indian man.
Really?
And he took me to an Indian temple in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, now you gotta tell me this story. How did this happen? How did you make that connection?
Yeah.
How did this trip come about? Tell me more.
So honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time at the Strip, apart from this really great story of winning $600 at the casino. I think it was in. It was definitely at some casino, maybe the Paris Hotel.
Yeah.
And I don't know shit about blackjack. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about cards. I don't know anything about casinos or playing poker or anything. But then I just went randomly and I sat with this guy at the table, and he was like, "It's math. It's simple math." This is literally what he said. "It's math. It's simple math." And I just kept following what he did, and I won $600, and I actually left. So, but then, that was a little bit of my Vegas trip experience. Of course, I did all the hotels and watched the Bellagio show and all of that.
Yeah.
But I actually lived and couch surfed with an 80-year-old man there, and it was amazing because he drove me around Death Valley.
But what I'm saying is, how did that come about? Like, how did you end up couch surfing with an 85-year-old man? Is this someone that you knew before?
No, not really. I just couch surfed, and I connected with him on the app.
On the couch surfing app?
Yeah.
Ah.
I told him I'm traveling from Hyderabad, because that time I was living in Hyderabad, and he was so kind to actually make me a Hyderabadi biryani all by my him.
Wait, he made you a what?
A Hyderabadi biryani.
What is that? Tell me more. What is that? I mean, it sounds like you're saying biryani, which is a dish. So sometimes I walk back, because even if I have a little context, I want to make sure that everyone understands. So biryani is a dish, right? And so what's the word that you use to describe it?
So there is a city in the south of India. It's from a state called as Telangana. And that's the capital city of Telangana.
Okay.
So I used to work in Hyderabad for a long time. But the biryani there is really famous. So because I told him I'm coming from Hyderabad, he made it from scratch for me. It was so sweet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
How was it?
Sweet. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And like, even though it wasn't perfect, but I felt really good because he made it for me, and he didn't know me. This guy didn't know me, and he was so nice to actually let me into his home. He took me to a Hindu temple. We attended the religious prayers there. And this is what I actually did in Las Vegas. So whenever people ask me about Las Vegas, this is my story. But you tell me more.
No, it's so funny. So everyone's probably asking you. They're probably like, "Oh, did you get crazy in Vegas?" And you're like, "You know what? Like, I gambled one time, but really, I went to a temple."
Yeah.
Which is that's really cool. But I think growing up for me, as a kid, to be honest, I think my story is really like anticlimactic. It was just me and my friends, like little kids. I feel like average experience in the U.S. at least, we ride bikes to go meet up with our friends. Like as I got older in high school and we started driving, it would be something similar, whether it was for like when it was social functions, people would have social functions maybe at their home. There was a little spot on the strip at the time that we would go in the summers maybe.
Okay.
It was like a video arcade. And then when I was a little bit younger, there was a water park on the strip. But that was something you would do like maybe once or twice a summer.
Okay.
But that's the only interaction we had with the strip. It was mostly, as I mentioned, like you kind of meeting up with each other. Or going to like, for me, I was a part of a youth organization, so our local community center, our libraries. It sounds really boring, but like, high school sports, high school events. High school sports are really big in the States.
Yeah.
I played basketball.
Wow.
And so, whether it's going to like, or like football games were a big social function, like a big social function. Okay. Like going to a football game on a Friday night was like a big thing,
Yeah. But sorry, you were saying.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So tell me this: how did your family end up in Las Vegas? Because aren't you African?
Okay. Wow. Now you getting into it now. No, that was great. Okay, listen. Okay, this is great. This is actually great. And I say that because some of my experiences traveling over the course of the years, I always make I feel like an assumption that people understand the experience of the Black American in the United States or our history. And I'm learning that it's a improper assumption to make as a Black American. Yeah. So the brief, my parents got to Las Vegas because my mother from Dallas, Texas, and my dad is from Plainfield, New Jersey. And they both went into the Air Force, right? Okay. So they actually met in a place called Grand Forks, North Dakota, because they were both stationed there. So that's where they met. Okay. And then they got married and then got stationed in Las Vegas. But the bigger question that you ask is, aren't I African? Yes, I am African. Most Black Americans in the United States are present there as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, which the transatlantic slave trade brought more than 10 million Africans across the Atlantic and spread throughout North America, South America, and the Caribbean islands. And so Africans in North America, specifically United States, have been there since, the 1600s, if not maybe a little bit more. And so as a result of that experience and generations and generations and generations of enslavement, people were ripped from their cultural heritage. So Black Americans, by and large, cannot say, like, I'm from Nigeria, I'm from Ghana, I'm from Guinea-Bissau, I'm from Benin, I'm from Togo. And because of that, there is a little distance sometimes between our relationship with the continent, which is the reason, actually, I spent the last year in Africa.
Yeah.
So last year, I spent the year traveling through 7 countries in Africa for varying periods of time.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I was coming to that because you keep mentioning that you traveled to Africa, and that's because you felt distant from your own country. Is that so?
No, this is the thing. So, because of, just to reiterate briefly, it's like, so Black Americans don't know their ancestral country of origin, right? Now, Black Americans, over the courses of hundreds of years, we have developed our own culture within the United States.
Okay.
So we do have a very rich history and culture in the United States that we're very, that we have a lot of pride in.
Okay.
But when it comes to you as an individual being able to say you're from India, or even other, Africans that may be, even if they've been in, let's just say comparatively, if they've been in the UK for 5 generations,
Yeah.
even if they say, oh, I'm from London, right, and they may have an accent,
Yeah.
right, an English accent, they still know that their family's from Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
Comparatively, in the United States, they may also have like their own, culture and something, and some things that are specific to them being from the UK and being in the UK for generations, right? But comparatively, as an African in the United States, those, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 generations, right? There's most of us, like by and large, above 90%, are unable to say, oh, my family is from Nigeria or Ghana or those countries which were in West Africa, which most Africans were taken from in the transatlantic slave trade. So that's why I say, that context was to say, so a part of my journey last year was, as a result of that, many people don't even know that, they don't even know you can travel to Africa, to be honest. They don't know, it's not really something that's encouraged, it's not something that's celebrated, it's not something that's explored. And so I wanted to do that for my own personal experience. Obviously we have like DNA technology that helps us now.
Yeah.
Kind of have that identity, but I wanted to have my own kind of restorative, my own like repairing experience of me having a more, a relationship that I could have a conversation with, sensation about, like, experiences that I could have a conversation about, perspective in my own context about a place. I know it's a large continent, but mostly we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, but so I wanted to have some experiences in South, West, and East Africa. I wanted to be able to compare them. I wanted to like see what the nuances and similarities in some of the culture that we've actually been able to preserve that we didn't know we preserved. Oh, those are things that we do too. So that's what the journey last year for me about, and obviously that's not a one-time thing for me. Like developing like that relationship and experience is something that I hope to do over and over for the rest of my life. But I know that was a long-winded way, but I felt the question was so broad that it required a long-winded answer.
No, I get it. And do you? So let me know. I don't want to be.
You don't have to be hesitant.
Yeah, like I don't want to be offensive with this question.
You won't be offensive.
And please feel free to not answer if you don't want to.
I'm gonna answer. Trust me.
But because I don't know if it is right to ask this or not, and that's why you can please feel free to stop me right there. But as a Black African, in a white country.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah. That's a very broad question.
Yeah, but do you have, because there were so many movements across on this topic.
Right.
That, again, I know it's a very broad question.
Right.
But have you faced something like so, or do you feel like it's a restriction, or because you're already from the US,
right.
do you feel like you're free to, do whatever you...
So I think, I want to say this. First, I want to say thank you for the question, right? And I think in having any conversation on a topic that someone is not as knowledgeable about, there is a certain level of like deference we all want to have, right?
Yeah.
Deference that I would have. If I'm curious about things that I know may be touchy, I'm going to do that and show that respect. And I'm going to say you do that, and you've done that, and I appreciate that. A few things I want to touch on in what you stated, right? So the first question you asked was, how do I feel as like a black person like in a white country, right?
Yeah.
I would say that are we okay? We okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. I would say that first of all, a lot of people would challenge the question, right? The reason they would challenge the question is they would say, what makes the United States a white country?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna explore that a little bit because as we know, the United States is a little bit unique as opposed to other countries in which there was a large indigenous population there, right? You have people that were coming over from Europe, hundreds of years ago, and then, almost contemporaneously, you got indigenous populations, you got African populations, and then you have hundreds of years of people building, actually doing the physical labor to build a country. And so a lot of people would say, a lot of people would say that they believe it's their home too. They have that same ownership, right? Now, I think it's valid when you say a white country because obviously there's the largest population in the United States is European, right? So again, important context. But for me to answer the question, I think it would take us hours and hours and hours, to kind of go through the many nuances of like kind of what that means. But to try to address it as succinctly as possible, I'll say that it's a very complex, complicated, and nuanced experience, and one that I'm learning that as I travel throughout the world, it is so nuanced because again, our history puts us in a place that while we live and grow in the United States, we feel a perpetual and continuous like friction, right?
Yeah.
One of not being accepted, but also saying not being accepted, although we've been here just as long as anyone else's family.
Yeah.
But then also not feeling as though we have the same, social or financial opportunities.
Yeah.
And then you have that juxtaposed against us stepping out of that. And this is definitely a position of privilege. People that are able to leave the United States and experience other things, it's such a difficult thing to contend with because then you have the privilege, right, of being an American.
Yeah.
Which is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason I say it would take a long time is because it's so complex to get into and discuss. And maybe one day I'll do it. I know this can't be a 4-hour podcast, But I would say this. I'd say it's difficult to contend with because, again, not knowing my ancestral country of origin makes you feel like there's a separation, right?
Yeah.
Although I have love and respect for my many generations of family and ancestors from the United States, there's always a want to kind of repair certain things. Like if you look at my last name, for instance, my last name is Campbell. Yeah. That is not an African last name. That is an Irish last name. It's something that's been so normalized that we think we take honor in our last names, right? In the United States now as Black Americans. All of them are European last names, but we think we have so much ownership in them. And in my mind, there's no, like, again, it's so difficult. Again, it's nuance, right? Because there's no, I want to be clear, there's no judgment behind our statement. It just is what it is. But it's like, I would like to have my cultural last name as well. You see
Yeah.
how something so simple
Yeah.
as that is something that we all take for granted. That even you were just like, wow. And it's like,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, most people don't even think about it. Like I bet you most Black Americans don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or think about how our first names. Now this happens all around the world, but how our first names also, by and large, don't have any cultural significance. They usually, at least for a period of time, and for many people, the easiest name possible you can give someone, right? So that they will not be identified as other. For instance, my first name is Brandon,
Yeah.
right? Brandon Campbell. There's no cultural, there's nothing you could pick at in that name and say
Yeah.
this person's from this place.
Yeah, yeah.
So hopefully, again, me trying to hopefully that was a substantive enough answer.
Yeah. No, it
For you
just
to
gives
get
a
some
lot of perspective.
Insight.
I didn't know about it though. Like, I definitely didn't know about this. So thank you for answering that.
So Monika, we talked a lot about me, and I really do appreciate you asking me those questions.
I'm so
genuinely.
sorry.
No, it's all good.
I need to
What do we
move
do?
my head. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna move my head this side so that I'm gonna sit like this.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's much better. Yeah.
Given your background,
Yeah.
right? One point that we didn't talk about in your journey is, so we talk about you growing up in the UAE, coming back to India. It's okay to say that you're married, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And so you meet your husband. Where do you guys meet? And how do you get to Singapore? Because
Yeah.
Singapore is where you've been living the last few years.
Yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so my husband was actually my friend for a very long time. And I think at the back of my head, I always knew that if there's somebody, if I would get married to, it would be him. And I'm so glad, even though I tell people that he's pestered the heck out of me to get married to him, that's really not the case, because I knew that I couldn't do without him. I'm a little teary-eyed when I say that.
No, that's so sweet. That's so
Yeah.
sweet. Well, so answer this for me if you can. Similarly, we all have different levels of understanding with each other's cultural experience, as you've just asked me. So, one thing that I've at least heard or seen about in the media with respect to marriage is that, India has a history and tradition of arranged marriages versus love marriages, right? How did that play a part in your story? And does that play a part in the culture and where you're from in Rajasthan? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think mine is a very different case from what India generally sees. For me, like I said, we were friends for a very long time. And just as maybe from people from Rajasthan, generally tend to get married earlier. So I got married when I was 28 and a half.
Is that early by Indian standards?
No, that's late.
Oh, okay.
That's late, ideally. And my parents definitely wanted me to get married a little earlier, but then they also understood and respected the kind of background that I was in. So I was still working and figuring things out. So that was okay. But then generally girls would get married earlier. And it is the case that a lot of Indians tend to have arranged marriages where when sometimes parents don't really ask you who you would want to get married to, and earlier, like my dad and mom or like my grandparents didn't really see each other before they got married, or they would have just seen each other once and then they got married. And sometimes it's just the parents of either sides that actually fix marriages. But now that we're evolving and we're my generation is comparatively, I think, a little more adaptive to all of this. And now we're like, no, we want to see the person, we want to live with them, or we want to explore the society, and then we see and decide. And our parents are getting adapted to it as well. So if it was for my elder siblings' case, it wasn't so adaptable that time. But then in my case, because it already happened once, it was a little better. And for me, it was almost like my parents convinced me to get married to him. So it was the other way around.
Really?
Yeah. So, and also I always wanted a very simple marriage, and generally, like Indians have they have like a big fat Indian wedding,
Yes.
and they call like thousands of people, and there's a lot of food, and then there's a lot of dance and glamour and all of that.
Yes.
And I always wanted a simple wedding with like intimate people. So I and my husband actually we had a court marriage, with just one day.
Wait, you had a what marriage?
We had a court marriage. Like
what does
we
that
just we just signed the papers. We had no ceremonies,
Ah.
and we just signed our court papers, and that's how we got married.
Oh, a court marriage.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So
tell me, like, how did that go over with the family?
Yeah.
Because I've heard about and seen, Indian weddings and how they can be. To me, it reminds me of like Nigerian weddings. So how did you get that over on your family? Like, yeah, we're not going to do all that.
Yeah.
We're just going to go to the courthouse.
I think just our parents are I'm very grateful that they've been very adaptable, both our sides.
Yeah.
And I feel like, we also come from different castes. So like I and my husband, we come from different castes. And that's not very normal. Like people would want to get married in the same caste. So I think just as our families, we were able to step forward on all of it and understand that, okay, if two people want to be with each other, then that's okay. But it's not there, it may not be as prevalent in other parts of India. So even for getting married in a different caste or with different ceremonies, that we didn't want to do a big wedding, we didn't want to exchange a lot of things. There were a lot of barriers that we actually broke in our weddings. Just as Indian standards, we broke a lot of them. Yeah. And our parents have been extremely supportive. And I think, it's definitely a cultural shock for me as well, because when I went into his family, and that's how it is for Indians, that the girl goes into the boy's family. Apart from some parts of India where that's not the case. Yeah. But that's very little part of India where the boy actually goes to the girl's house, and in very specific cases. Otherwise, the whole of India is where the girl goes into the guy's house.
Yeah.
So I would say we're a more patriarchal society, definitely. So it was a huge cultural shock for me as well, because the food was different, the language was different, the religion was different, the way things were done were different, the day looked different. It was completely, there was a huge change. But I would say, I think I took like 5 steps to adapt to them, and I think they took 10. So I'm so grateful for my in-laws as well, because they've just been absolutely amazing in adjusting to the career that I have, the way that I am, the way that I dress, the way that I want to take my decisions. And I know it may sound very normal for you to hear, but it's not as normal for Indian society. And I'm just very grateful that they've been, they've just been amazing.
I hear you.
It's really nice.
So you know what? I look forward to continuing to learn about your experience. Your experience growing up as a person like from India. Obviously, you have a unique experience having lived like a good portion of your formative years in the UAE. And you shocked me the other day when you told me that you spoke Arabic. I had no clue. I say that to say that there's so much for us to continue to learn about and from each other over the course of the year.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how you view things. And your perspective on things now, as opposed to kind of at the end of your journey.
Yeah, of course.
And so I do want to transition a little bit about thinking out, to what we're looking at over the course of the year, right? You're going to have about you're going to be in at least 3 or 4 countries in Africa, a few in Asia, and then hopefully we'll make it over to Latin America as well.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you this, like, what do you feel, have you had time to think about what that journey may mean for you? Or have you had time to think about things that you're looking forward to in the year at all?
Wow. That's a tough question. But honestly, not as much in detail that I would want to. Maybe just because things have been I mean, I've been occupied. Life has been happening. Yeah, life has been happening, and there were a lot of things to get done. Was I excited for it? Yeah, I was. I mean, I've told you this many times, and I want to say it again. The first time that I saw the, video of the Storyteller competition, I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to travel the world or I'm going to tick off too many countries. I just knew that I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really about how much of travel is going to happen, because I knew that I'm still going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to still build my business. I'm still going to build extended family,
right.
And we're going to be working together. But I think it was more about, okay, I've been meaning to do this from a long time, and this is my chance to jump at it. So I should go ahead and make the video and submit it, and then I will see. So for me, I think I'm more of a person where I would think about it later. Like, I would let something come to me and then I would think about it. Now that I'm realizing I'm already here, maybe it's a good time to think about it. But I think the only thing that I've actually sat down and really thought upon is how much of a changed person would I be.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that person.
So a few things I'll say, right? Is that's going to come.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment as much as you can. As you know, I had a similar experience to you. 2017, I traveled for a year. Most of my travel was through Europe and Latin America, so I didn't actually get to do Asia or Africa at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see what the experience is like for you. So I'll say, like, it's gonna come, but you already told me, you gave me like a little peek, and you said sometimes you anticipate things.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's gonna go by quick. Like, it doesn't seem like it, but it's gonna go by quick. So my only advice is enjoy the moment as much as you can.
Yeah.
I look forward to you having a beautiful journey.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine like all the things you'll experience. And what we're gonna have to do, I feel like, is I'm gonna have to check in with you on the road when you're about halfway through. We'll have another conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much to touch on. Again, not only just exploratively between you and I as we continue to get to know each other, but I think talking about that in this setting is even different than us like having a meal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why, but I feel like the intention here, like when we're chatting, we're able to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
And then I'm gonna tell on you a little bit. I'm gonna tell her a secret. She won't drink with me, y'all. She won't drink with me. So eventually,
I'm working. That's all. I'm working.
She does drink, but she's a little hesitant to drink with me because
I drink socially. Yeah, sometimes here and there.
Because I get it. You believe that like you have the same professional habits that a lot of us professionals had back in the day, right? It's, certain settings you always want to make sure that you're on your toes, you're prepared, and I want to say that that's something that I really appreciate about you, generally. But you can still have a drink with me, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
So, all right, we're going to definitely chat back in later in the year. I'm really excited about what the year has in store for you. So much more for us to do here while we're in Goa. Yeah. So much more for us to like do together. Hopefully we get to do some things. Hopefully you can show me some things, even though you're not from here. We've had some amazing food already.
Yeah.
Man, the first day that food was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like like for real. Like, what was that dish called?
It's called the Goan Thali.
The Goan Thali.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. So I'll say this, Monika, once again, like, thank you so much for being here in this year, right?
Yeah.
We're here, we're on the beach in Goa. It's going to be like a fantastic year. I'm focusing more and more on my life and manifesting the end result that we want and focusing on that, right? You and I have both, like you said, life has been lifing. It's the thing I'll be saying. You and I have both had a journey to get to this point today over the last couple months, right? And so, but we're in this together, you know. I got to show you how to do my handshake.
Okay.
Like this, and then hold on, go like this, and then like this. Okay, try it. Like this and like this. There we go.
Okay.
And so we're in this together. We're locked in. I'm gonna keep saying it. Be like, yeah. We've discussed it. We've talked about it. I'm so grateful for you.
Likewise, Brandon.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. We're going to kick ass this year. Amazing year. And welcome to the extended family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
that's a wrap, y'all.